Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my Endless Diary Tales channel? Thank you so much. After being reborn, I made it my mission to become the exact kind of girl Andrew Miller hated the most. He liked girls with long hair. He liked gentle, demure types. So I chopped off my waist-length black hair, went surfing and skiing with my friends, and spent entire nights out partying and messing around. In my previous life, I didn't learn until after we got married that he had always been in love with his childhood sweetheart, Grace Chen. His mother had threatened to kill herself to force them apart, and he had no choice but to marry me just because I looked a little like Grace. After we got married, he was always distant with me, and he stayed emotionally entangled with Grace. Cried, I fought, I lost control. Then, on the day I went to ask for a divorce, I got into a car accident and died a bitter, unjust death. Living this life again when my friends asked, "Are you doing all this to get Andrew Miller's attention?" I simply said, "No, I'm doing it to stay away from him." One of my best friends was having a birthday and invited me to the party. When I walked into the private room, the party was at its peak. No one noticed me at first, but when I made my way over to my friend, she suddenly shouted, "Whoa, Rachel, you cut your hair?" My friend Emily had a booming voice, and the moment she spoke, everyone turned to look. The mood in the room shifted slightly. Their eyes landed on my short haircut, just above my ears, and their expressions grew subtly complicated. I acted as if nothing had happened and smiled. "Yeah, I just got it cut." The stylist said, "This look really suits you. What do you think?" "It looks great, really good." Voices responded one after another, overlapping slightly. Those who said it looked good showered me with compliments, but at the same time, I noticed their gazes subtly drifting in one direction. "I don't think it looks good." A blunt voice cut through all the politeness. That voice came from Grace. As soon as she realized what she'd said, she quickly covered her mouth, as if she had made a mistake, and looked regretful. "Oops, I'm so sorry, Rachel." I accidentally blurted out what I was thinking. You know me, I've always been the straightforward type. "You're not mad, are you?" Before I could even respond, Andrew stood up and repeated after her, "Yeah, it really doesn't look good." His every word and move screamed that he was defending Grace. The atmosphere became awkward. I didn't mind, I smiled and said, "It's fine, I like it, and that's what matters." Andrew called me outside. We stood facing each other in the hallway under the dim corridor lighting. His features seemed shadowed and unclear, but I could feel the suppressed anger in his voice. "Rachel, who told you to cut your hair all of a sudden? Didn't I say I liked long hair on you?" "As your girlfriend." "Andrew," I interrupted him, "let's break up." The air froze for a second. He frowned and was about to say something when a sudden argument erupted between Grace and Emily inside the room. His frown deepened, and with a cold scoff he said, "Whatever," and quickly went back inside. I watched him walk away and quietly exhaled. Andrew and I met back in high school during our freshman year. I broke my leg during a dance practice and had to walk with crutches for a while. Because of that, I was often bullied. People called me limper behind my back, and even tried to trip me on purpose while I walked. One time they stole my homework. I cried trying to chase them but couldn't catch up. That was when I met Andrew. There are moments in life when someone unexpectedly captures your heart. Andrew didn't just help me. He protected me for all 3 years of high school. Even after my leg had fully healed, I kept following behind him. It became a habit. Everyone knew I liked him, and one time he casually said he liked girls with long hair, so I grew my hair back out to my waist. He said, "Girls should be gentle and quiet." So I quit the street dance club, stopped going skiing in the mountains, and no longer surfed at the beach. I gave up my friendships, gave up my hobbies, and reshaped myself completely into someone unrecognizable, someone tailored to his preferences. Eventually, my efforts paid off. He finally agreed to be in a relationship with me and even took me to meet his family. That was when I met Grace Chen, the girl his family had adopted. When we met, she clung to Andrew's arm and said with a sweet smile, "Rachel, you're so pretty." "Andrew, you're lucky." "Now, actually, I kind of look like Rachel, don't I?" A casual remark, but one that carried subtle hostility. I didn't think much of it, and I didn't notice the stiffness in Andrew's expression in that moment. In my previous life, Andrew and I eventually got married without any major obstacles, but even after our wedding, he remained emotionally distant. It wasn't until Grace sent me a video of the two of them being intimate that I learned the truth. In that video, they were doing the kinds of things only married couples should do, without the slightest shame. Her smug, provocative words cut into me like a bloody knife. If my adoptive mom hadn't stopped me, I should have been the one to become Mrs. Miller. You think marrying him means you've won? Think again. He doesn't love you at all. You're just my replacement. I was so shocked and furious I coughed up blood. I grabbed our legal documents and rushed out to find Andrew and file for divorce, only to get into a car accident on the way and die, full of hate and regret. When I opened my eyes again, I had been reborn back to the time when we had just gotten into college. This time, I vowed to become the version of myself Andrew Miller despised the most. I would no longer be that hollow substitute. When I returned to the private room, Grace was crying in Andrew's arms. His expression was cold and stern as he turned to Emily and said, "Emily, apologize to my sister." Emily's neck stiffened as she shot back. "Why should I apologize to this fake little princess? Your sister started bad-mouthing Rachel, and I just called her out. If anyone, she should apologize. It's her. She should say sorry to Rachel first." Grace's eyes were red and watery as she spoke in a wounded tone. "But I was just telling the truth. Is that wrong?" She looked up with eyes full of tears, as if she'd been wronged beyond belief. Emily wasn't about to let her off easily. "Then calling you fake and petty is also just me telling the truth. I guess I'm not wrong either." "Enough," Andrew snapped sharply, his tall frame pressing forward with visible pressure. But Emily didn't back down at all. At that moment, all of them turned and saw me walking in. Grace's eyes lit up. "Rachel, you're finally here." From what I had gathered from the others, I already knew the reason behind the fight between Grace and Emily. After Andrew and I had stepped out of the room earlier, Grace had started talking behind my back, saying I was stingy and mean. It was all because of a trip Andrew and I took to the Maldives. Grace had hinted she wanted to come along, but I had politely expressed that I wanted the trip to be just the two of us. Apparently, Grace didn't or wouldn't take the hint. She came with us anyway. On the first day, she said she didn't want to go out because she was afraid of getting sunburned, so Andrew stayed at the hotel with her, playing video games the entire day. On the second day, I finally persuaded her to go out, but she kept complaining about her stomach, her cramps, feeling nauseous, and Andrew ended up booking the earliest return flight. The trip I had planned so carefully and looked forward to was completely ruined. I was upset and couldn't help but snap at Grace. She cried and said, "I'm sorry, Rachel. I just wanted to spend some time with you, my future sister-in-law. I didn't mean to cause trouble." Andrew calmed me down too, but it was clear whose side he was on. Grace meant well. Besides, she's family. If we get married, she'll be your sister too. What's the harm in giving in to her a little? Family sister. Those words made me back down again. At the time, I really loved Andrew. I wanted to become a part of his family, his world. For him, I was willing to give up who I was. I was willing to swallow my pride and dignity. But even then, Grace was never satisfied. Behind my back, she continued to gossip and complain. Maybe I was being too sensitive, but I could clearly feel it when people said, "Rachel got upset over something so small. That's kind of petty, isn't it?" They said I gave off a bitter, mean-spirited vibe, and that just happened to be overheard by Emily. Furious, she confronted Grace. And that's how their argument had started. Now, seeing me enter the room, Grace showed no trace of guilt or shame for being caught gossiping behind my back. Instead, her expression was full of smugness, as if she had nothing to fear. "Rachel, I was just talking casually," she said, smiling sweetly. "You're not going to take it personally, are you? Can't you do something about your friend? He's blowing everything out of proportion. Isn't he the one stirring up trouble?" She looked at Emily with gleeful satisfaction, completely confident that I would do what I used to keep the peace for Andrew's sake. Swallow my pride to please him, even go so far as to take sides against the friend who always stood up for me. But this time she was bound to be disappointed. I looked her straight in the eyes and said clearly and calmly, "I take it very personally." The moment those words left my mouth, everyone in the room froze for a second, including Emily. His eyes widened slightly, staring at me without blinking. I smiled at him gently. Grace looked stunned, like she couldn't believe what she just heard. She forced a smile and asked, "What did you say, Rachel?" I said, I take it very personally when someone talks about me behind my back. Is that what you call being raised? Well, her face flushed a deep red. She lifted her head pitifully to look at Andrew, her eyes brimming with tears that threatened to fall at any moment. Andrew's usually calm expression darkened. Still, for some reason, he didn't argue or defend her. He just said coldly, "So what?" She said, "Your haircut looked bad. Now you're throwing a tantrum. Don't go overboard. Calm down. Come talk to me in a few days." With that, he grabbed Grace's wrist and walked out. I almost laughed. In his mind, the breakup, the fight with Grace, everything was just me acting petty and dramatic. It never even crossed his mind that I was serious. After they left, Emily looked at me, clearly frustrated. "Sorry, Rachel. I made Andrew mad. Maybe I should go apologize to Grace. I'll take the blame if they want to yell or hit me, whatever. I just don't want things to get worse for you." The look in his eyes was full of concern. He knew how much Andrew had once meant to me, and how far I was willing to go for him. But that was the old me. I took Emily's hand and said gently, "Don't. I already broke up with Andrew." His eyes widened in disbelief. "What? Seriously?" "Yeah, seriously." I suddenly leaned in and hugged him, resting my chin on his soft shoulder. A lump formed in my throat. I almost cried. Emily and I had known each other since we were kids. When we were younger, he'd lost all his hair from medication during an illness and was mocked constantly at school. I was the loud, impulsive type. Anyone who dared laugh at him, I'd fight them. Emily relied on me a lot, and we shared the same passions: skiing, surfing, and other outdoor sports. Eventually, we became close friends. But after I met Andrew, everything changed. I grew out my hair, tried to become quiet and ladylike, stopped surfing, stopped skiing, stopped dancing. My friends slowly drifted away one by one, unable to recognize me anymore. Only Emily stayed. There was no need to say much between us. "Thank you, Emily. Thanks for not giving up on me." He looked a little embarrassed. With a dramatic flair, he patted me on the shoulder. "It's just a breakup. Come on, the world's full of good guys. I'll help you find someone even better." I didn't take Emily's teasing too seriously. Once I got back to school, the first thing I did was quit the art club and rejoin the street dance club. When I submitted the paper withdrawal form to the faculty advisor, the other members were around, including Grace. One of them asked, "Why is Rachel dropping out? Doesn't she know it'll cost her credit?" Another person answered, "Why else? She tried so hard to copy Grace, but in the end Grace totally outshined her. Now she can't take it and just gave up." That second person was Grace's roommate. Naturally, Grace's roommate defended her. Grace looked smug, but not completely. I knew she didn't want me to quit the art club because it was her comfort zone, the one place she could confidently outshine me. Grace had been learning to draw since elementary school, and she was genuinely talented. I, on the other hand, was just an amateur. Back when I was dating Andrew, he once said that girls who could paint seemed elegant and refined, so I gave up all my other interests and devoted myself to learning how to draw. But I'd only been learning for a short time compared to someone like Grace, who had years of experience. I was always a step behind. The university club system was brutally practical. Many of the activities were tied to academic credits. Grace, being one of the most skilled members, naturally got to make a lot of decisions. Like that time she told me to go fetch some drawing paper. I ended up accidentally getting splashed with oil paint all over my clothes. Someone took a photo of me looking like a total mess and posted it on the campus forum. I became the butt of everyone's jokes. So now that I was leaving the art club, of course, she didn't want me to go. She couldn't help but ask, "You're quitting the art club? Does Andrew know? What does that have to do with him?" I shot back. Grace clearly hadn't expected me to be so blunt. I didn't give her a chance to respond. I grabbed the signed approval form from the instructor and walked away without looking back. For the next few days, life was surprisingly peaceful. I focused on myself and didn't worry about anything else. Every now and then, I'd meet up with a few friends from the neighborhood to hang out. One night, out of the blue, I got a call from Andrew. His voice carried a pitiful tone. "Rachel, my stomach hurts. Can you bring me some medicine?" Andrew had chronic stomach problems. He often forgot his medication and would call me to bring it over. But I answered coldly, "Andrew, did you forget that we already broke up?" He went silent for a moment, then sighed like he was helpless. All right, enough already. I've already given you a way out of this. Stop being so stubborn, okay? I was wrong that day. I shouldn't have insulted you in front of everyone. You've been sulking long enough. I'm apologizing now. That condescending tone, as if offering me an apology was some huge favor, didn't even make me angry. Maybe I just reached a point where I was so completely disappointed in him that nothing he said or did could affect me anymore. Andrew, I said. Obviously, we're done. I didn't wait for his reaction. I hung up, sat quietly by myself for a while, and let out a soft sigh. Maybe it was my seriousness that finally made Andrew realize we were truly over because he stopped contacting me. But then Emily started acting all mysterious and asked me out one day, saying she had a surprise for me. She even insisted I do my makeup and wear something pretty, so I picked out a Ralph Lauren dress and headed to the meeting spot. As soon as I arrived, I saw Emily waving enthusiastically, and standing next to her was someone I didn't expect at all. Lucas Mang, a senior from our department. I quickly walked over to greet them, shooting Emily a questioning look as I tried to figure out what was going on. What was Lucas doing here? Lucas was one of the most admired students in our department. Not only was he incredibly handsome, but he also had top grades and came from a well-off family. He had a massive following of admirers at school. The only catch was that he was known for being aloof and rarely spoke to anyone unless necessary. So what was he doing here with Emily? Is this your boyfriend? I whispered, pulling Emily aside with a completely serious face. She replied, No, he's your boyfriend.
Ist der daher? Totally stunned.
Emily finally burst into laughter and explained, Remember when I said I'd find you someone better? I posted on my social media about setting you up, and I even included your photo. I said anyone interested could reach out. And guess who did?
Lucas Mang.
I blinked. Wait, how do you even have Lucas Mang's WeChat? Oh, I added him during the academic symposium last semester. I had a question and needed to message him. That's not the point. She waved it off. The point is today is your blind date, so get it together and make a good impression. I'm rooting for you. That's Emily, my ever unpredictable, occasionally ridiculous wingman. No matter how hard I glared at Emily, she pretended not to see it. She handed us 2 tickets to the amusement park, gave Lucas a quick nod, and walked off without even looking back. I was so embarrassed I could have dug 2 holes in the ground with my toes. Lucas seemed to pick up on my discomfort. He handed me a bottle of water and said gently, Don't be so nervous. Just think of it as hanging out with a friend. Have you been here before? His tone was calm and easygoing, just like his personality. Warm, thoughtful, and relaxed. I gradually started to feel more at ease. For a moment, I wondered if Lucas had something he needed to talk to me about, and had just used Emily as an excuse to set up the meeting. After all, with his looks and background, it's not like he'd have any trouble finding a girlfriend. Why would he bother going on a blind date with me? That thought made me loosen up even more. I went around picking the rides I liked, waiting for Lucas to bring up whatever he needed to say. Lucas was incredibly composed and patient. He was also considerate. I tended to go for the more thrilling rides, but wearing a dress, some of them inconvenient. Without a word, he took off his jacket and draped it over my legs. That moment reminded me of when I had come to an amusement park with Andrew before. Back then, when I wanted to try exciting rides, he would frown and scold me, saying, These are too dangerous. You're wearing a dress. It's not appropriate. Just don't go. People really are so different from one another. Just as Andrew crossed my mind, I suddenly thought I heard his voice in real life. I turned around and there he was walking with Grace on his arm. In that instant they looked over and saw me too. Andrew's face changed immediately when he saw me, then noticing Lucas behind me, he scowled and walked straight toward us. Rachel, what are you doing here? He demanded, his voice low but forceful, like someone catching a cheater in the act. I didn't know what to say for a moment. Before I could respond, Lucas stepped forward. And who are you? He asked coolly. Then, out of nowhere, he reached out and laced his fingers through mine. I froze, startled, but didn't pull away. His hand was large and warm, and without meaning to, my attention shifted entirely to the feel of it. I couldn't even spare a thought for Andrew. Andrew's eyes instantly turned red. He glared at me and raised his voice. We only broke up less than a month ago, and you've already found another guy? I looked at him confused. So what? Did you think I was going to stay celibate for you? All I wanted was to get back at him with that one line. I didn't realize I had basically just admitted that Lucas and I were together. By the time I realized what I'd said, I stiffened and glanced nervously at Lucas, only to find him smiling slightly, completely unbothered. Just then Grace came running over too. Seeing the tension between the three of us, her eyes flickered with something complicated. She tried to calm Andrew down. Come on, Andrew, let's go back. But he ignored her completely. He looked at our clasped hands, then back at our faces, panic rising in his voice. No way. You're lying to me, right? He sounded like he was trying to confirm something or maybe just convince himself. You barely even knew Lucas before. How could you be dating him already? You must have just seen us and made this up, right? I panicked. He actually got it right. But I couldn't let my confidence crack now. Who says I'm lying? He's my boyfriend. I shouted. Andrew went pale. Lucas's face was unreadable. He simply put an arm around my shoulders and said calmly, "Let's go." Without sparing them another glance, he turned and walked away with me. Once we were far enough from Andrew and Grace, I quietly slipped my hand out of Lucas's and turned to him apologetically. "I'm sorry," I said. I blurted it out without thinking and claimed you were my boyfriend. "If it ends up affecting you later, I'll definitely clear things up," I said earnestly. After all, I had no idea if Andrew or Grace would go around spreading what happened today. Lucas was extremely popular on campus, and it would be bad if any unnecessary rumors started because of this. The more I thought about it, the more uneasy I felt. But to my surprise, Lucas suddenly bent down so his eyes were level with mine. He gave me a soft smile. "There's no need to apologize," he said gently. "I came here today with the intention of dating. I'm happy you called me your boyfriend in front of others." I was stunned for a second, then I remembered what Emily had said, that he had posted about setting me up on social media and Lucas had reached out to him. So Lucas hadn't just tagged along with Emily to talk about something. He'd really come for a blind date. But why? Lucas met my eyes and smiled faintly. "You might have forgotten, but we met before. I've liked you for a long time." "When was that?" I asked awkwardly. I really couldn't remember. Lucas didn't say more about it. Instead, he looked at me seriously and asked, "Since that's the case, would you be willing to give it a try with me?" His gaze was sincere, with a hint of nervousness and vulnerability. That look shook me a little. Still, I declined, not because of him, but because the pain Andrew had caused in my previous life went too deep. I just couldn't start another intimate relationship so easily. Lucas didn't seem upset. He simply smiled kindly and said, "That's okay." After Andrew left the amusement park, he fell into a strange emotional state. Anger, pain, panic, denial, regret. He didn't even hear what Grace was saying. His mind was completely consumed by thoughts of Rachel. Truth be told, he never really liked Rachel at the beginning. He only got close to her because he wanted a girlfriend who matched him in family background and would be utterly devoted to him. The one he truly liked was Grace. But no matter how much he liked her, he and Grace were doomed from the start. They weren't blood related, but they had grown up as siblings, and his parents would never approve. Rachel, on the other hand, was beautiful, came from a good family, and made no effort to hide how much she adored him. Her love was intense, dazzling, almost overwhelming. She was the opposite of Grace, who was always gentle and quiet. One time, he casually mentioned that girls who could draw seemed elegant and classy. Rachel immediately gave up all her other interests to learn painting. She grew her hair out, abandoned her old friends, and changed her lifestyle, all to become the version of herself he wanted. He loved that. He was intoxicated by how much she loved him. But then one day everything changed. She suddenly cut her hair short, and then just like that she broke up with him. Andrew thought she was just throwing a tantrum because after cutting her hair, Grace had publicly said it looked ugly, and to defend Grace he'd said the same. The truth was it had looked great, fresh and striking. But once the words were out, he couldn't take them back. He assumed Rachel wouldn't care. She never had before. No matter how many times things like this happen, maybe she was just embarrassed that day and didn't know how to. He stormed over and confronted her, demanding answers. He doubted her, challenged her, but Rachel's eyes showed no trace of attachment. No pain, no sadness, not even anger. Just calm, just disdain. That's when Andrew truly panicked. He realized he really was hurting, even as Rachel walked away with Lucas. Andrew stood there, stunned, wondering, is this really over? Can I really let her go? No, absolutely not, was what Andrew was thinking. I didn't know because I had a party to attend. The day we left the amusement park, Lucas had mentioned his mother's birthday was coming up, and she would be hosting a party. He invited me but quickly added, don't feel pressured. I'm inviting some other classmates too. Even if you just come as a friend, I'd be happy. I thought about it and agreed. As expected, a lot of people showed up. The Meng family was prominent and wealthy, and many students were eager for a chance to get close to them. To my surprise, I even saw Andrew's whole family there. Mrs. Miller saw me too and walked over. Andrew and Grace followed behind her. Rachel, she greeted me warmly. You haven't been to the house in a while. I was just thinking about you the other day. Mrs. Miller had a reputation for being strict, but she had always been kind to me. Even in my last life, she liked me very much. Otherwise, she never would have approved of me and Andrew dating. After we got together, I used to visit their home often, but that was the past. Auntie, Andrew and I have broken up, I said calmly. As I spoke, I glanced at Andrew. Judging by his expression, he hadn't told her. Mrs. Miller's smile faltered, her face darkened, and she turned sharply toward Andrew. What is this about? She asked sternly. Andrew fumbled awkwardly, then muttered, it's my fault. I'll do my best to make it up to Rachel. Just then Grace stepped forward, trying to defend him. It's not entirely Andrew's fault. But before she could finish, Mrs. Miller slapped her across the face. Don't think I don't know what's going on in your head, she snapped. Mrs. Miller was well aware of the inappropriate relationship between Andrew and Grace. It was her disapproval that had kept them from ending up together in the first place. She turned back to me, took my hand gently and said, Rachel, if Andrew upset you, I'll speak to him when we get home. Give him another chance. Mrs. Miller said gently, I truly hoped you would become my daughter-in-law. As soon as she said that, Andrew's eyes lit up with hope, but Grace shot me a resentful glare. I was just about to politely decline when a familiar voice called out behind me. Rachel, there you are. I've been looking all over for you. I turned to see Lucas. He was dressed in a sleek black suit today, elegant and handsome. He walked up beside me, nodded politely to Mrs. Miller and the others, then turned to me with a warm smile as he extended his hand. Would I be lucky enough to ask you for a dance? I glanced at Mrs. Miller and the others, who were clearly uncomfortable, then placed my hand gently in his after politely saying goodbye. I let Lucas lead me away. Once we were out of sight, I leaned toward him and whispered, Thank you, Lucas, that was a real save. He chuckled softly. You're welcome. Though I really did want to dance with you. So I ended up dancing a waltz with him, elegant and light, flowing to the rhythm of the music. As the dance was nearing its end, he leaned close to my ear and said quietly, Rachel, don't give Andrew another chance. You're amazing. He doesn't deserve you. Something warm surged in my chest, and tears nearly welled up in my eyes. In my past life, I always blamed myself. Was it because I wasn't good enough that Andrew kept hurting me? But now that I had been given another chance, I wasn't confused anymore. It wasn't that I wasn't good enough. It was that Andrew never knew how to cherish anything. Still, when I remembered the pain he caused me in the last life, a dull ache remained in my heart. But Lucas's words were like a breeze sweeping through me, gently washing away the bitterness. If you don't appreciate me, there will be someone who does. After the party, Lucas and I grew closer. Slowly, cautiously, I began to try dating him. But this time it was different from how I had been with Andrew. I no longer poured all of myself into someone else. I wouldn't tolerate injustice for love. I wouldn't let myself get hurt to maintain a relationship because I realized now love should be mutual. It shouldn't be about one person changing blindly to please the other. It should be two people sharing affection, admiring one another, and growing together. But for some reason, Andrew started acting strange. Suddenly, he became overly attentive, sending me flowers and bringing me breakfast. I didn't accept any of it. I had told him countless times that I would never get back together with him, but he acted like he didn't believe me. You've done so much for me, how could you not love me? He said. You're just mad at me, right? I had no words for his stubbornness. Unfortunately, that wasn't the end of it. One day, a post appeared on the campus forum. At the top was a photo of me with 2 large, bold characters stamped across. Player. The entire post was clearly targeting me. It accused me of stringing Andrew along while also seducing Lucas. It listed a bunch of so-called evidence. Photos of Andrew bringing me gifts and others of me spending time with Lucas. It might have been dismissed as nothing more than a messy love triangle, but Lucas was so popular on campus, and with a few people fanning the flames, things escalated fast. People started causing trouble. That day, I went to the dance studio to change, and when I opened my locker, a bloody dead rat fell out. Even Emily jumped in shock. She turned to me and asked, "What do we do?" I answered calmly, "Call the police." The authorities arrived quickly, and it didn't take them long to find the culprit. A petite girl with her hair tied in 2 buns. When they brought her in front of me, her face was full of fear and surprise. Like she hadn't expected me to actually call the police. She had only meant to disgust me, but even now she didn't think she'd done anything wrong. "It's your own fault for being shameless," the girl sneered. "I just wanted to teach you a lesson. You're not only petty but also..." Emily was so furious she looked ready to punch her, but I quickly held him back. Then I stared directly at the girl, unwavering. She began to squirm under my gaze. "What do you want?" I didn't answer her. Instead, I turned to the nearby officer. "Wouldn't this count as intimidation?" I asked calmly. "I refuse mediation. If she can be charged, then charge her." The girl's face turned pale instantly as the officers escorted her away. Her eyes welled up with tears. She clearly hadn't expected me to actually call the police. She had only wanted to discuss me and never thought she was doing anything wrong. I had been bluffing, of course. Intimidation can indeed lead to criminal charges, but only in severe cases. In her situation, she'd likely just be forced to apologize and pay a fine. Still, people should be held accountable for their actions. Emily smirked from the side. "Guess this is what they call killing the chicken to scare the monkey. After this, no one's going to try anything." I glanced at him. The real person behind this is the one who made the post. "I'll find out who it was," Emily said seriously, but I shook my head. I didn't even need to guess, it had to be one of 2 people. I went to see Andrew first. He was in the hospital with a recurring stomach issue. When he saw me walk in, his eyes lit up with surprise. "Rachel, did you come here just to see me?" I didn't bother with small talk. I pulled out my phone and opened the forum post, holding it up to his face. "Did you write this?" Andrew stared at it for a while, his expression shifting into a mix of indignation and hurt. "How could you think it was me?" He really didn't know. He'd been hospitalized for several days and hadn't been following campus gossip. He had only heard about the post today. Without changing my expression, I withdrew my phone. "All right, if it wasn't you, then I'll leave." But Andrew quickly grabbed my wrist, his tone softening as he pleaded. "Rachel, please don't be mad. I know I shouldn't have embarrassed you in front of everyone last time. Please forgive me just this once." From his perspective, none of this made sense. Everything had been fine, and now it felt like I was breaking up with him just because of a haircut. He really couldn't understand. That's why he had always assumed I was just throwing a fit. I looked at him quietly. "Do you actually want to be with me? Or do you just want me to stay so Grace can look better by comparison?" His face froze like he'd been struck by lightning. His voice came out dry and brittle. "How did you know?" I didn't answer, I just turned and walked out. What I didn't expect was that Andrew would come running after me. He was barefoot, anxious, and clearly disheveled. He grabbed my arm, panic written all over his face. "Rachel, I admit. I did think that way before, but I don't like Grace anymore. I really don't. I'm sure the one I love now is you." I gave him one cold glance. "If you really love me, then please don't cling to me anymore." His face went deathly pale. After leaving the hospital, I went to see Grace, but I didn't go alone this time. I brought police officers and a lawyer with me. At first, Grace denied everything, but once the officers laid the evidence out in front of her, her mouth opened, closed, and then stayed that way for a while before she finally mumbled, "I just exaggerated things a little. It's not like I actually hurt you." Was it really necessary to get the police involved? I sneered. Did you seriously think spreading obscene rumors comes without consequences? Grace's eyes filled with tears and she suddenly screamed at me. It's your fault. Andrew used to only care about me. You're the one who stole him away. Her voice shook with fury. You two were never real. You have no idea what Andrew means to me. You don't deserve him. He's mine. He always has been. The officers moved to take her away as she continued shouting. Grace was arrested. As Grace was taken away, her face twisted with hatred. Forbidden love, her adoptive mother's rejection, hidden desires, and a deep resentment toward me had all spiraled into a kind of madness that left her beyond reason. Watching her like that, I suddenly had a bad feeling, and it didn't take long for that feeling to come true. News of Grace's arrest for spreading false rumors spread quickly. Even though she was released soon after, students still whispered about it non-stop. Someone even started a new thread on the school forum specifically to expose what had happened. Harming others always backfires. That's what the post said. For once, she got a taste of what it felt like to be judged by everyone because of all the gossip. She didn't show up to school for several days, but when she finally did come back, it was in a car. That day, I had just finished class and was heading to meet Lucas for a date. Suddenly, the roar of an engine shattered the calm. Amid panic screams, a car came speeding straight toward me. Watch out! Lucas reacted instantly, pulling me to safety. The car barely grazed the hem of my skirt. Grace slammed on the brakes and turned her head to look back at me. Her eyes were filled with pure hatred and insanity. She had completely lost her mind. Then, without hesitation, she turned the car around and drove straight at me again. Everyone nearby scattered in panic. The scene turned chaotic. Lucas pulled me away once more, but screams erupted. Blood stained the pavement. Grace had hit someone else. It was Andrew. He lay on the ground covered in blood. Grace burst into tears and ran from the car screaming, Andrew! Andrew! No one saw exactly how Andrew had gotten there, but everyone knew what had happened. He'd stepped in to stop her. The ambulance came quickly, so did the police. Both Grace and Andrew were taken away. I stood there in shock, still trembling. Lucas gently pulled me into his arms and held me, patting my back. It's over now, he whispered. 6 months later, everything had settled. Grace was sentenced to life in prison. Andrew didn't die, but he lost a leg. He withdrew from school. At our graduation party, I stood backstage getting ready for the street dance group's final performance. As I was doing my makeup, a younger classmate came in and said someone was looking for me. When I stepped out, I saw Andrew waiting quietly in his wheelchair, watching the stage. His eyes were darker than before, filled with time-worn emotion I couldn't quite name. I walked over. When he saw me, he smiled faintly. You've lived a good life this time, Rachel. After experiencing the edge of life and death, he too had been reborn. I said nothing. I turned and walked away. No matter what happened in our past life, in this one, I wanted nothing more to do with him. It was finally my turn to perform. I stepped onto the stage with the teammates who shared my passions, and we lit it up together with our energy and rhythm. In the audience, Lucas's eyes never left me. His gaze was so focused, so full of warmth. Suddenly, I remembered something. When my mom had been hospitalized for appendicitis years ago, I used to visit her every day. One day at the hospital, I ran into a little boy crying alone in the hallway. To cheer him up, I danced for him. His eyes back then had been exactly like Lucas's now, sincere and full of wonder. I smiled. When you bloom, the breeze will come.